Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Escambia Empires. We're excited that you've joined us today. I'm joined by my beautiful bald-headed brother, Danny. How you doing?
Beautiful. Wow, that what a ring to it. Beautiful bald-headed
brother. Bald-headed brother. And for those of you who are just listening on the audio,
I am bald. Yes,
he is very bald. Go ahead
and I'm sensitive about it.
Go clearly. Go check us out on YouTube so you can take a look at Danny live in the
so
flesh.
Weird, bro. This is so weird.
So our guest,
but I am incredibly beautiful.
All right, we're moving on from that.
Incredibly bald.
Not every episode starts this way, but we're gonna roll with it. We're gonna do it. Our guest for this episode is John Cho. John is a realtor here in Pensacola and somebody who I would consider a friend. I met him just a few weeks ago, actually, a couple months ago, through a mutual friend, and he's like, you should meet John Cho. And so, I mean, really, ever since I first went out to coffee with him, he's just an incredible guy. I really, really have enjoyed getting to know him, and he's very driven. He's seen a lot of success in a short period of time in the real estate industry, and he's young and professional. So he's somebody that we definitely were excited to get on the podcast, and he has got so much to talk about. His first year in real estate, he did 45 transactions, 45 closings, or he had 45 under contract at least. I think he had 39 closings.
Yeah, 39 closings.
Yeah, and then his second year in real estate, he transitioned into investing, and he's made $45,000 off of one wholesale assignment fee, and he's made six figures off of one flip before. Just crazy, crazy stories that he's got, and we talk about how he finds his deals and what he believes separates those who are willing to do what it takes and those who aren't, and kind of, strategies to be effective in the real estate industry. So there was a lot to unpack in this episode, and definitely he's somebody who we could have on and talk for hours and hours and hours, but I really feel like we did a good job of kind of extracting some of that actionable information from him. So
Absolutely.
It was a really, really fun episode.
Yeah, welcome to episode 41.
Episode 41.
No, wait. Actually, this is 42. I'm
sorry.
We're
all kind of mixed up. We've got a bank of 2 or 3 episodes now that we've been recording consistently, but we're going through a transition with a new editor and things like that. So apologize for those of you who have been waiting with bated breath for the new episode. But here we are. So this is episode
coming.
What is episode 42?
42.
Here's episode 42, and here's our interview with John Cho. John Cho, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
Yeah, we're excited. We've been talking about this for a long time, and even scheduled it a couple times, and it's kind of hard for, I don't know, it's hard to get people on the same page sometimes.
That was my bad. That crawfish boil, I had to.
Got to make it for the crawfish, man. I wasn't even going to out you about what it was. Like, he's out doing deals or something. He's like, no, it was crawfish, man. No worries at all. So we're excited to have you here. Go ahead, for those who aren't familiar with you, don't know you, haven't heard, which probably isn't too many, but
right.
For those who don't know you, go ahead.
Well, where should I start?
Yeah.
Well, I started my real estate journey quite in the same time around February 2019. I know, Mike, you started in 2019 as well. For the first 2-3 months, I was struggling. I was like 0 transaction, and you know how that feels. It's like, wow, okay, $0 coming in, and I just quit my job where I was doing super well, and I can't figure this out. But I still stuck through it, and I managed to close 45 deals my first year, and then jumped into it as an investor.
I just want to make sure that everybody understands how huge that is, because I know several people who've gotten licensed since I got licensed. Many of the people that I know have yet to close a deal or have closed. You can count on one hand the amount of deals they've closed.
Mm-hmm. I saw like the national average for a real estate agent in the U.S. was like 12 a year.
It's something super low. It's super low, and that's like the high producers are the ones who are bringing that average up. It's really super low. Yeah. So for you to have done 45 your first year, that is astronomical. I mean, that's really crazy.
Well, it was literally do or die, because I had no income other than being a real estate agent, because I quit my job. Prior to that, I was selling cell phones for Verizon, and my first year, I placed in the top 12 as the sales rep in the whole Gulf Coast region.
Wow.
And a lady came into the store. She was a real estate agent, and she said, wow, you would probably be a really good realtor. But me, I was like being really stubborn, and I said, no, I just want more sales experience. That's me, because I was just comfortable at that state. But, we kept going for like 2 hours back and forth texting, and I made up my mind saying no, but this one text changed my mind. She said 20K checks are nice. And
you don't get those kind of checks selling cell phones.
Right. But the thing is, like, that 20K was very significant to me because that's how much my parents made in a year. So I was like, wow, if I can make a 20K check where my parents make that in a year, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and while I was selling cell phones, it was all commission based. I was getting paid. I made about 65K in my first year just selling cell phones.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, that's incredible
solid.
too.
But so I made the jump, had money saved up, about 15K, and then I just quit. And I didn't realize I was just going to quit like that because I was like, I was doing well, but, you know, I wanted more because I was tired of living that poor lifestyle because, like, my parents, I don't come from a rich family, and I was like, I need to make it. I want to make like generational wealth just because my family came from a poverty level area.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to do something. I want to change my life. I'm going to go with it. And that's how I got into real estate. So, yeah.
Man, I mean, I feel like there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that a lot of people ask me is, you know, how do you make the jump in? How do you get started? So you had a significant amount in savings,
Yeah.
and that kind of just tided you over from when you first got your license to when you had your first sale.
Yeah.
Were you doing anything
But
else in
here's
between
the
that
thing,
time?
even 15K, wow, that started diminishing really quick
It goes
because
quick.
all those fees that you have to pay, yearly fees, super fees, E&O insurance, a desk fee, all of that starts adding up, and now you want to use some of that money to kind of market yourself because you're new, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So you start putting in $500 here, $500 there. It's not working, so you
Pivot and
yeah,
go into something
exactly, and
else,
then
yeah.
you stop. And not only that, like, what I realized is, so while I was working at a Verizon, my lifestyle, I was spending about like $3,500 a month to $4,000, and I told myself, when I quit this job and start being a real estate agent, I'm gonna kind of be more conservative. But that never happened. Like, if you're used to that $3,500 or $4,000 lifestyle that you used to, you can't just go cold turkey. I found that out really quick. I was like, okay, I'm trying to save more, but just money's leaving super fast. So
Yeah. I mean, like you said, that's hard if you're used to a certain lifestyle to just dial back. I think that's one thing I tell people, and I hate saying this, but I tell people a lot of times, I just got very, I don't want to use the word lucky. I was blessed in the very beginning because I was on my own.
Yeah.
And I was interning as well at the county office, the commissioner's office. So I would go there. Maybe I shouldn't even say this on air. I'd go there, and if they had like a county lunch or something, I'd take 4, 5, 6 pieces of pizza, wrap it in foil, and that was breakfast or lunch for the next 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
So I was able to just like eat ramen.
Yeah.
And my bills were just so low for the first couple months.
Yeah.
I had a lot less than 15,000 in savings though. So, you know, it was kind of the same.
Yeah.
So having said that, when you first got licensed, you're saying like putting money into this or that, or this isn't working. You went a few months without a sale. And then obviously you went from your first few months of no sales to having a massive amount in those last few months. So what did you start doing that worked so clearly?
So it actually didn't start working at first, but it took time. Like, I would be knocking on doors for 8 hours, like on Saturdays, dedicated to knocking on doors from, like from 12 o'clock to 8 p.m. or even 10 a.m. to like 8 p.m. So yeah, I was just knocking and knocking and knocking. Like, I had blisters, my lips were dried out, but you know, that was like one of the most free ways to advertise yourself.
Yep.
I would go to a subdivision, literally knock on every single door, leave a pamphlet for months. And it finally started paying off. I also started calling people for hours and hours, like look up FSBOs on Zillow.
Yep.
And I should have known about expires, but I didn't really target them. But I was like calling like my sphere of influence, just on Facebook, just putting myself
Just
out
making
there.
connections.
Yeah, and then finally I got some listings from knocking on doors, and I gained buyers from that, and I started working on those people and then those family. So that's how I was able to get transaction after transactions. And sometimes I would ask like these top performing agents, and I was like, hey, do you need do you have some people that you don't want to work with? And they'll hand me some people
Or maybe like
off.
some really low priced
Right,
things.
right.
Yeah.
And some difficult clients that they don't want to work with,
Yep.
like you just have to pay referral fees. So that's what I did. I did the stuff that nobody wanted to do. And for the first few months, it didn't show any results. But all of a sudden, on my third month, I had 5 closings.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, let's go. And
It's
then life
all-
just got super busy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that. Talking about the knocking on doors.
Yeah.
2 things for that. Number one is that it took time. Even though you were doing what was effective, it still takes time to build up that momentum, which I think a lot of people don't have the patience for.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they're not going to take a Saturday and go do what needs to be done. They're
Yeah.
not going to go out and do what's necessary. So I think a lot of people see where you're at now and you're investing in things like that. And they're like, oh, that's cool. What do I do to get into real estate?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, but you probably won't do it. We're
Yeah.
going through that right now. There's a couple, well, maybe I shouldn't. There's a couple people who have come to me and said that they want to start at our brokerage. They want to get started. And all I did, you and I've talked about this before, all I did was send them the link to, like, I actually went out with Mark and we had lunch with them and talked with them. And I sent them the link to the real estate course and said, pass this course and then come back to me and we'll get you started. We will get you plugged in and trained and you can start making money. This is a great time to start. Haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
It's been
I
at least
think
2 or
that's
3
normal.
weeks. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because people, and then I started investing in 2020. What started off the whole investment journey was I got a house for $10K, and found a investment partner because it needed about $120,000 in renovation. Used his money.
That's a huge amount of revenue.
But here's the thing: we sold that property for $290K.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then, so once I got that capital, I put a house under contract again and made $40K in 29 days again, and just used all those money to kept reinvesting and investing and investing. And yeah, in 2020, we did about $500,000 in profit. So
Man.
that was wild. So now, I'm still trying to do this, but now I'm more on my own. Like I split up with my partner just because we kept working together. Our work style was different, so we had a mutual agreement. All right, let's just both go on our ways. So that's what's happening right now. Last month, I had a property under contract. I was gonna flip it. However, one of my properties didn't close on time, so I just sold that off. I made $45K within about 2 weeks, within 2 weeks. And then one of my flip property closed, which was $68,000, $68K in profit. And, I still do regular real estate. Last week I put 2 houses under contract, one for the buyer, one for the listing. It was right below $500K in sales volume. So, yeah,
Which, those are, excuse me, $500,000 transactions those commission checks are no joke.
they're okay.
Yeah, but I was just gonna say, throwing those. I just want to. I feel bad because I keep highlighting what you're saying, but you're talking about making $68K on a flip or $45,000 on an assignment fee. Those are crazy amounts of money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. You can do sales and you have your license and stuff, but if you're making those kind of checks doing something else, that's real hard to just be working.
So once I got that check for my first flip, since we did a 50-50 split, even with the 50-50 split, it was close to $80K each. I was just looking at that check and I'm like, okay, let me see how much I made in 2019 as a realtor.
Yeah.
And let me see how much I made here. Like,
from one deal.
That one deal was more than what I made as a real estate agent. So I was like, okay, my focus needs to start being on investment. And here's the thing. I like that even more because as a realtor, you still have a boss. Your clients are your boss. You have someone that you need to answer to. But as a real estate agent, I am the boss, like
As an
hey,
investor.
but at the same time, sometimes you have to call the contractors. I'm like, hey, did you get this done? Oh, how's this looking? Hey, I haven't heard from you. Like it changes, but still, I don't have a boss. Like I don't have anyone to answer to, because if I mess up, I'll be like, oh no.
Well, you have to pay the price then.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, let's unpack that just a little bit. So you found your first flip for 10K.
Yeah.
Where-
Taxes were 10K, another 10K.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. So we were actually, yeah.
Where
So-
did you find that? Where'd you
so-
find the deal?
I was driving for dollars, man.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, what is driving for dollars?
It was behind that Walmart in Creighton Road, that PCC with that subdivision.
Yeah.
So driving for dollars is you drive around town and I plan what route, and just to find properties that are dilapidated. It's just
like distressed.
yeah,
in some way.
distressed. And that's kind of like a door knocking technique, in my opinion, because I'm just like driving around checking properties out. So yeah, man, it just started like working out here and there, and then I got another investment property, but it was super stressful because since I had limited capital in the beginning, like I had to make sure the first flip closed for the second flip to purchase. One time I had to push out for a month, and I was like scared to lose the deal, but I was like, I can't get that money. Mr. Seller, can you wait for me for another month? And he was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. And I was like,
Wow.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, driving for dollars, obviously that's whenever people start investing, I feel like that's one of the things that most people, it's like calling for sale by owners as a realtor. That's like the gateway, the entry, because it's free. But you were doing a huge amount of transactions as a realtor.
Yeah.
So when did you make that transition to, okay, were you devoting a certain time for driving for dollars?
No, I just stopped prospecting as a realtor. I just started prospecting
you made
only strictly on sellers to sell it to me.
Okay.
I wasn't even prospecting people to hire me as a realtor. I was just prospecting people. Hey, do you want to sell your house? And so, yeah. But here's the thing. I don't think I would have been successful in flipping if I wasn't a real estate agent, because like helping buyers and sellers, you start seeing those numbers, like you start seeing those offers come in. Like if I price this home at a certain amount in this neighborhood at a certain square footage, what at a certain price point you get multiple offers, like now the value of the house.
Yeah. Well, that's one reason that I decided to get my real estate license, because I like to be investing full time eventually as well.
Yeah.
Or at least add that into income. But it really does. It just increases your general knowledge. I mean, number one, being a realtor, like you learn the streets and the neighborhoods and stuff just kind of by default. If you're out walking and knocking on doors for 8 hours a day, you're going to know those subdivisions pretty well. You've walked them.
I'm curious too, so we kind of got into real estate more or less with the goal of investing down the road. When you got into real estate, was it just, hey, I want to do transactions, like this is kind of how it was sold to me, or was your intention to invest?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Flip
So
houses?
yes, my intention was to invest, but I never knew how I was going to get started, because I always thought, oh man, I know investments always, people talk about real estate investment. Like, I feel like that's the most over quoted or overstatement. Like people are like, oh, real estate investment, do this and that. And I was like, okay, maybe like becoming a real estate agent will help me, but I just didn't know like how.
Yeah.
But I knew how exactly once I started doing this transaction and I started seeing those numbers. That means I could buy this house for this amount and I'll still be safe. Like there's no risk.
Yeah.
So that helped me gain a lot more confidence. I was like, okay, so you want 50 grand for this? Okay, that's fine. Like I wouldn't bat an eye, because I knew that property is going to be worth fixed up $200K. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And although it needs another $50K in rehab, I will still be very confident in buying and having no remorse, because I knew that was an amazing deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I got into real estate investing.
Gotcha. So you feel like becoming a realtor helps tremendously down the road whenever you want to start investing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because of market knowledge. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So, and you're talking about, you learn what an after repair value would be if this house was fixed up in this neighborhood. This is what it could sell for.
Right.
Do you have how did you learn in the beginning? One thing that I have struggled with in the past is learning how to even estimate. I know how to do after repair values, because obviously I do CMAs all day long for sellers, how do you know what it would cost to fix it up, and how do you structure like a deal?
When it comes to like materials, sometimes you just have to take a trip to Lowe's or Home Depot at first and just like look down. Okay, a light fixture should cost this much. A light fixture with fans should cost this much. Appliances should cost this much. And then you call HVAC companies, and usually HVACs would go from $3,500 to $5,000 depending on the size of the house. A roof right now, after that hurricane, it got so expensive, like ridiculously expensive. But I just calculated if it's 1,300 square feet home with 2-car garage, it's gonna be about like close to $9,000. Like, cause like I've replaced several roofs from being a realtor for clients, and I saw their quotes.
Yep,
that actually helped me too. And so it's stuff like that, like, and then you just ask around, get multiple quotes, and just figure things out. And I have made some mistakes where I hired a handyman. It took a lot longer than a general contractor. However, the price was a lot cheaper. So there was that kind of experience that I had. But
what is that whole thing? Quick, cheap, and good?
Yeah.
You can only choose two.
Yeah. So I'm realizing too, like if I want to do this long term, I actually just have to pay premium price with this contractor, because I hate because like one project, we cut down a lot of cost, but I had to go to like Home Depot, like Lowe's several times, and just had to figure that out. I just wish like one person would take care of it. And at the very end, I was like, I would have just loved to pay extra and not care about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because part invested. That's the thing. Part of the allure of investment is less time necessary. You're not, otherwise it's just a high paying job, and there's have been other opportunities that have come up. I'm sure that's like, you could do a lot more work and make more money, but ultimately is that the point? You know, like you probably don't want the hassle of having to track down handyman all the time and make sure the jobs are getting done.
And then the handyman contacts you saying, hey, I need these hinges. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about the hinges. Like those small details starts adding up. And next thing you know, he's like, hey, I need 5 more gallons of paint. I'm like, hey, by the way, the shower head you bought does not fit with this one. And I'm like, no,
I can't even. I don't want those kind of calls ever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give my opinion on faucets or shower heads. Don't ask me. I'll hire somebody else. I have no idea.
So that's why I feel like sometimes wholesaling is the way to go. But at the same time, like that wholesale deal I did, it was either make $45,000 within 2 weeks or make $170,000 in 5 to 6 months. The reason is the tenants need about 75 days to stay there to find a new house, because they have to buy a car and do this and that. I always buy to keep and fix it up myself, but then I started calculating like how much it would cost me, like that opportunity cost, and my flips aren't closing because the appraisal is coming in late, which was the last thing on my mind. I was like, okay, I have an investor who wants to offer me, like, I put it on the contract for 135. He wants to offer me for 180K. He pays all closing. So, 180K. He pays every single closing, and I net 45K. And I was like, man, like when I said yes to that, for a whole day, I was like trying to analyze what could I have done better? What could I have done differently?
You texted me about
to maximize my potential. And, there was some big guys that I know saw my post about it. They were like, hey, next time contact me. I have all the cash you need. Like, we can work together. So there's a way we can work. I can work with other investors because I have the deal. Of course, it was probably going to be like 50-50 or me taking less. So my maximum potential that I saw would probably have about $90,000 or so. But that's me having to wait another 3 months. So I was like, okay, I'll just take the $45,000. Yeah. I signed it anyways. Let's try to move on. And then it was a successful closing, got paid, and then I was like, okay. I mean, it was nice, but it's always about not how much you make as that opportunity cost that I always look at. It's not how much the dollar, it's how much more I could make if I utilize my time right.
Time for something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the thing. Like you can make that in 2 weeks, or you can stretch it out over 75, whatever it was, 2 or 3 months. And now, even if you're making double, if it's taking quadruple or 5 times the time, then
that's mind share, and then you could be putting that time.
And here's the thing. Here's another thing. I thought about maybe keeping it, and once 75 days up, just list it as is and get paid $200K, which would be a lot more. But then I carry that risk because all my capital is in here. I'm stretching myself thin. Is it like worth it? So
that's the thing. I feel like there's always, like you said, you can analyze and see in the future what you could do potentially different. There's always different things that you could do, but it's just a matter of risk and making smart choices over the long term.
The number one rule that I want to say to everybody is just buying a house right. I bought 3 houses at once before, and then that hurricane came. Trees fell on it on 2 roofs, and I'm like, holy crap. I'm looking at my bank account. I'm like, okay, we need to get rid of one of these ASAP, because one just hit the market, hurricane came, 2 big trees came, and the contractor's saying you just need to give us another 30 days. I'm like, oh my gosh. So took that out of the market, and I'm looking at my bank account. I'm like, okay, time to retreat. Let's sell one of these off. I put $2K in one of the properties that I got for $58,000, $2,000 to $3,000 in it for cleaning job. It was a hoarder's house, so I was totaling it for like 60 grand. I listed for $100K that week. It sold within that week.
Wow.
So that's another close to 40 grand profit, and that's me just like buying it right. That's just the concept.
And like you said, you carry the risk then though of having to do all that yourself and then take it to market and hope you get what you want.
And then you got to make sure that it is a diamond in the rough. You're making sure that it is the right one, and it's not just...
when you own the house and money's on the line, the negotiation is just different. Other than being like, it's different level than being a realtor.
Much more.
Because here's the thing, everybody's looking out for their own. Like, you just can't trust anybody. In this business, it's like they have this reasons, yada yada, but you just never know. It like they could turn around and say, go the other way, and there's like people who's offering you this. It's just a complicated world when it comes to like those large assets.
I mean, we're going through a couple right now that are just, kind of sticky situations. And I'm reminded every single day, this business is no joke, man. It is not something that I feel like a lot of people just jump into it because it's like, be a realtor, and it's like an easy intro, or you see on HGTV or whatever, or you see your aunt's a realtor, or all these different things. But it is a crazy business, and it's intense, and mistakes made in this business are costly. Costly mistakes. That's...
And here's another thing. You could be friends with the seller, like a buddies with the seller, but the number is what they're looking for. You can spend like a month with them, but if someone comes in and offer them $10K, like that relationship is gone. So like people need to understand that, like, just because you're buddy with the seller doesn't mean it's secure. Like that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned in real estate. Just because you have good rapport, it really, I know people talk about having rapport, but when it comes to investment, it doesn't matter. It's the numbers that speak.
In the end, people will do what's best for them.
Exactly. And here's the thing. It's like, people are like, oh, well, it's the largest asset that I got. I need to watch out for myself. And they rightfully should do so. And although you spent multiple months with them, like, it doesn't matter. If someone can bring a better terms, financing option, like, that's the winner. Like, so I don't really try to focus on being buddies with the sellers. I'm really stoic and strict. I partnered up with some other people. Like, they're really nice to sellers, and I'm like, I get it, but doesn't mean squat. Let's just focus on the business and just
keep it professional.
Because here's the thing: if he gets a better deal, like, he's gonna go with other. Doesn't matter if we smile, laugh like for a long time. It just doesn't matter.
The numbers are numbers.
Interesting.
Even with agents, like you probably have a lot of agents calling you. Oh, hey, my buyers are like.
You and I have talked about this before.
They're young, they're so excited. They've been living in an apartment. It's like, oh, and I have so many questions about oh, the house, you have like 5 minutes to spare, and next thing you know, they take 20 minutes away from you, and the next thing you know is they go to the house, they're like, oh, and then no response, no callbacks, and then you follow up there, and then they're like, oh, hey, they just didn't like this and that. Although they hype it up, then that's why, like,
yeah,
I'm always like stoic. Like, if an agent calls me, I know I get some agents get so mad at this. I just don't pick up my phone. I used to, but now after learning all that, I don't. And if they truly need something from me, they'll text me.
Yeah.
And I'll just reply to text. And that has been the best things that I've done when it comes to being efficient. Don't even entertain calling with
efficient. That's the right word.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just takes your time.
Yeah, there's definitely, and I talked with Mark about this. I mean, there's definitely a balance there, because I think a lot of people who are in this business long term forget you're dealing with the same people over and over and over. It's good to have good relationships with people, but also when you do a deal with somebody, you can build a good working relationship with people. You don't have to answer. I mean, we have listings going live often.
Yeah.
And so anytime I have a listing go live, I see call after call after call.
Yeah.
And it's all people who want to do that same thing.
Yeah.
I'll talk to anybody if your client has seen the house and they actually want to submit an offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're just calling to see how many offers we have and tell me about your buyer and things like that, it's not really worth anything unless we know that
all of that. If they ask me a question, like literally, I just say, please use showing time. Can I please use showing time? And I say, and they start asking me all these questions, and I'm say, look at all the documents that I uploaded, and please contact me afterwards after you view the house, because most of them won't contact you because their clients aren't interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But they're trying to do their due diligence before they go, and that's fine.
At first, my mentor, he was like not answering all the calls, and I'm like, what are you doing? And I felt like that was rude, but now I'm like, man, I see exactly why he does that. And everything's silent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So from here, let's go ahead and I feel like there's a lot of different topics that we could talk about for a long time. But let's what were a couple of the questions that we had talked about?
One question that I really like to ask, and I asked it before we went on air, and I felt you gave a really efficient, good answer, was what's your favorite book that you've ever read, and why? Why do you feel that way?
So my favorite book that I would say all time would be Ecclesiastes, just because, finding this quick success, I came from, so actually I do want to rewind back and let you guys know, like, the reason why I was working really hard was, my parents only had made 20K a year. And also was the reason why they were not able to attend my graduations. Like, I was literally the only kid with no parents in my graduation, just because my parents couldn't afford that plane ticket.
Yeah.
And it was really lonely, because it was like everybody had someone to celebrate with. I'm literally there just like looking there. I'm like, okay, it is what it is.
Yikes.
Like, so that upset me tremendously, and I'm like, man, I wish my parents could be here too, because they're the ones sending me to school and trying to help me out. And they could never, they missed out my brother's graduation, so they never got to see any of us graduate. And then the biggest thing for my why factor was because, like, so when we were in Africa, like, my parents are missionaries, by the way. So when we were in Africa, like, my brother, something was wrong with him, like extremely wrong. There was something like in his neck area that's bulging, and we all knew something was extremely wrong. But our round ticket plane ticket was like 4 months out, and we didn't have the money to like go ahead and book a ticket and get him to hospital. And next thing you know, like 4 months passed, got a checkup, it ended up being cancer, lymph node. So that I took that personally, because like if I had the cash money, like I could always afford plane tickets. So that's part of the reason why I work really hard and why I want to be successful and achieve all my goals and just become like the first Cho to become a millionaire, a multimillionaire. And I think at this rate I will become a millionaire, within less than age 30. But that was like my biggest motivation of why I need to be doing this. But however, back to Ecclesiastes, I was like making all this money, like from getting paid $10 an hour to making, for generating $500,000 in 2020. I was like, man, the thing is, like, you think money would be like great. I mean, it is great because we can go out and eat, but there's still that emptiness, and it's like, what's next? I mean, like, okay, I made six figures last month, but there's like no fulfillment. It's like, what's next? Like, what do I need to be doing? So I was reading Ecclesiastes because I was like kind of depressed, and I'm like, man, like, is this all to life? I mean, I still have to achieve more and more, and I'm going to, and I want to, but that emptiness, and you start reflecting, okay, what's the life's purpose? And Ecclesiastes, written by King Solomon, who was probably a trillionaire. He had everything. He achieved everything. He had all the women's, like the car, whatever, horses or
the cars of the day.
Just like literally everything. And he says it's like meaningless. It's like vapor. Like everything passes by. Nothing is new under the sun. And it's totally right. Like you start realizing, man, like nothing is new. Like what I'm doing, like no one's gonna remember after generation has passed. Like. Like we become nothing, and I was like, dang, it's right. Like all the things that you're doing, but the biggest thing that book says, like, enjoying the small things, like that blessing actually also comes from God, and in the end, it's like the relationship with God, like, and then that just hit me really hard because I'm like trying to figure out what do I need to be doing next? What do I be needing to achieve next in order to have that fulfillment? I mean, yeah, it feels great for temporarily when you get that check, but it fades away really quick.
Yeah.
And so looking back to that, I'm like, man, like what is life's purpose? And after reading that, I start realizing, okay, yeah, you're right. Everything is vapor. Everything is meaningless. Like it's about relationship with God and also just enjoying the small things. And ever since I read that book, I have been enjoying the small things, and I have been less panicking and anxiety because I'm like, okay, I need to achieve this before at the age of this. I need to do this before at the age of this. And I'm like, my net worth needs to be this. Like I'm starting to like, I'm very impatient. I'm like, okay, I need to, all of that went to my mind and you become restless.
Yeah.
And I also do like compare myself to other people. Oh, why am I not successful as that person? So like reading that was like a therapy to me. It's like, okay, let's step back and let's see like the overall picture.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's good advice, especially from, I mean, you're someone who's very young and you've achieved a lot in you're somebody who I look up to tremendously. I hope you know that. You've achieved a lot and you're really just, you're a person of integrity. You're just fun to be around. And I feel like to hear you talk about that, that's something that rings for me as well. Like we talked about before we hit record today. It's so easy to just get caught up in the deadlines that you impose on yourself.
Yeah.
Like I want to do this by this age and this, or even not even the deadlines, but just, I want to achieve X, Y, and Z. And while achievements are great and setting goals are great, they are not the end result, not the end goal, So I appreciate, we talk about a lot of things in the podcast, but I feel like a lot of it is about day-to-day performance and not maybe so much about, what are you focusing on, So I really appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah.
So, well, that's cool, man. So you are involved in a bunch of things here in Pensacola, and I feel like you're somebody who we'll have on in the future.
Yeah.
like
definitely.
Ethan and Harry and a bunch of different people who we see growing very quickly. Where can people find out more about you? You're on socials? I know you're on socials. So you want to go ahead and let us know where we can find more content?
My TikTok, I try to like put some content out there, some tips about investing. It's just like sometimes I do that just to goof off, but it's John Cho _RE. Like I enjoy it. Like the TikTok community is fun. And I do have an Instagram. It's all linked there. But yeah, that's where you can find me if you guys want to message me. So
yeah. Awesome. All right.
Very cool.
Very reachable.
Yeah. Do you have any parting words for the people?
Parting words? just keep hustling, but not 24/7 because nobody can do that.
Yeah, that's right. Even though we all try, I'm sure.
Yeah, we all try, and I always am looking to self-improve. Like, so even like I think I see a lot of young people make this mistake. Like, they either buy this nice car and they struggle to make payments, and that's where they get stuck, and they have to go to that job that they hate to pay that car, or just like not save. And once you have some money, people tend to just spend that. Like, you gotta save that in order to transition to either a new job, like try to figure out what you want to do. Because I know if a lot of young people are listening, most of you guys, 90% of you guys, I feel like don't know what you guys want to do in life.
Yeah.
And in order to find that out, you have to try out new things. And in order to try out new things like new job, you have to have that financial cushion to transition into a new job.
To be able to experiment.
Yeah. And then that's where you find your talent. Like for me, I was an accountant, terrible at it. They said I was just horrible, but that's fine. I was a waiter. And then once I became a salesperson, that's where I found my talent. And although I had some had some cash, I didn't spend that on cars. Although my peers were buying that Honda Civic Type R, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're making the same amount. Like, you got to be struggling.
Yeah.
But just because you can buy it doesn't mean you can afford it.
Yeah.
Just have that capital saved up. Use that capital to try out new things. I think that's the biggest thing I could tell the younger generation.
It's great advice.
Yeah, interesting. Just because you can buy it doesn't mean you can afford it.
Right.
That's interesting. That's a good quote. All right. Well, cool, man. John, we really appreciate you jumping on the podcast.
Yeah. Been good.
It has been good. It's always a pleasure. So we'll keep tabs on you in the future, man. All right, so that was our podcast with John Cho. He just left, and to be honest, whenever we turned off the recorder or the audio, we ended up sitting here talking with him for like another 15, 20 minutes. I just love the guy. He's really, you can tell he's got a passion for what he does, and he feels things very deeply, and he's a very thoughtful person about, what he's doing. And you could hear that in the last part where he talked about Ecclesiastes, just what are your goals? Why are you trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, when you asked him about if there's anything that he could say to the audience, what would it be? And that was his advice. Find what your niche is, find what you're good at, and do that. And you can just tell in conversation with him, selling is what he's good at. That's what he loves. And it's not just even real estate, but he was great at selling phones. It's because he's passionate about what he grabs and takes hold of, and he's able to convey it very efficiently.
Yeah. Yep. I really enjoyed this episode very much. And for those of you who listened to the previous episode, I was gone, I was out. So this is my first time recording in a couple of weeks, and I just feel energized. So I hope everybody feels that same exact way after listening to this episode. As always, we appreciate you very much. If you're still listening, go ahead and head out and check out another episode.